50 States of Terror may include content unsuitable for young audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Content warnings will be included in the show notes. This is England, the Pig-Man of Cannock Chase. Hello world, and welcome to another episode of 50 States of Terror. I have some cool news. I will be having a special guest next episode. Well, hopefully next episode. It all depends on our scheduling. But a longtime fan of the show and a friend of the pod and friend off the pod, Marcos, will be on the show. Mainly because I asked and he said, sure. I think it would be cool to get another person's perspective on cryptids, aliens, and things like that. And Marcos is a cool dude, so it should be fun. Well, this is our first true international episode. England, the Pig-Man of Cannock Chase. This is going to be fun. So I will not do my normal little history recap of how a state, became to be for, two reasons. One, this is not a U.S. state. And two, the origin story of Great Britain or England, depending on who you are talking to, because one is the island, the other one is the country, blah, blah, blah. But that history is far more in depth than talking about the 200 plus year old American history than the centuries old rise and fall of complete civilizations, which is Great Britain. Not to say that it didn't occur within the Americas, but up until European hands touched Northern American lands, Europe had already gone through the Renaissance and sparked incredible inventions. But here is a quick history lesson. The world was cold. It warmed up. Someone built large monoliths such as Stonehenge in or around 3000 BC. And no one knows why they did it, and no one knows who they did it. The Bronze Age crept in, farming became a thing. Iron Age crept in along with the Celtic people who were amazing metal workers, sprinkling in some people called druids who were philosophers during this time. And we are still talking about pre-Christianity, by the way, like 2,000 years pre-Christianity. Now here come the Romans in or around 40 AD. Now we get into the fall of the Roman Empire, and England is becoming invaded by the Angles and the Saxons, and I think it's Angles, the Angles and the Saxons. There you go. This is where England gets its name, by the way. Angleland, England. Here comes Christianity, 800 AD. Here comes the Danish. Anglo-Saxons and Danish go back and forth in who rules England for a while. The Battle of Hastings happened. Next, here come the Normans and French. Kings come and go, and then the 100-Year War began in 1337 AD. And then the Black Death happened. More kings, then Henry VIII. The song still gets stuck in my head. Enter the Renaissance. The Spanish tried to get in, but got shot down. Fast forward through the gunpowder plot, and now we enter England's Civil War, the Great Fire of London. England grew in wealth and power. They beat the Dutch a couple of times. Now enter an era of Georges. Enter the Industrial Revolution. Keep in mind that Britain now had land and power over the number of countries. It recently lost the American colonies. England pushed to end the slave trade in the 1800s, then enter World War I, and modern England to follow. Phew, okay. Oh, and I know I left a lot of things out, but you didn't come here for that. You tuned in for the Pig-Man. So here we go. The area of Cannock Chase is described as being the same type of area as American Area 51, or perhaps Roswell, New Mexico. The area is a hotspot for paranormal and extraterrestrial sightings and activity. The Pig-Man origins come from a couple of different beginnings. One is that a woman fell victim to a witchcraft spell or curse and ventured into the woods of Cannock Chase to give birth to the Pig-Man, a disfigured creature. Later in years, the story goes that the disfigured child grew massive in size and his face resembled that of a pig. The mother later died in a jail cell from a fever after the townspeople didn't forgive her for, doing witchcraft things. The second origin story comes from a post-World War II experiments to try to create a superhuman soldier from birth. This type of experiment was already being attempted from apes and chimpanzees from the Germans. This story goes that a woman was abducted by a nearby village. She was abducted from a nearby village and hypnotized or drugged, then artificially assimilated with the experimental pig DNA. The woman didn't go into a normal pregnancy of 9 months, so after the 10th month, she was released and eventually gave birth to the Pig-Man. The Pig-Man was seen in 2 prominent sightings in 1993 and 2006. One from a couple and the other from a camper. Both times, the description of the Pig-Man are the same. They claim to have witnessed a 7-foot-tall large man with a pig head or pig-like head, excuse me, meaning an elonged snout and pig features. Now, either way, both have the same description as almost the same thing. Both occurrences have the Pig-Man making squealing sounds and scratching on things like the trees before it is seen. The area of these sightings is fairly large, and the forest itself is not dense, but it is full, so it gives that eerie feeling either way. One thing in particular that is interesting is in the research, the discussion of the pie green BT tower, which according to a few articles is the source of the paranormal cryptid extraterrestrial activity due to its use during the Civil War. Oh, I'm sorry, not Civil War, the Cold War. The Cold War spanning from the 1950s on to possibly, I believe, the beginning of the 1970s. One thing that jumps out from this research is the horrible murders that took place in the 60s within the forests of Staffordshire, England. And I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. Staffordshire. So it isn't like this area is clean of negative energy on top of centuries of history. But I want to go back to the pie green BT tower. To the pie green I'm butcher that up. The pie green BT tower. See, it is said that the source of all this stuff comes from this tower because it emits such a weird wavelength of energy or what have you in the land. Now, some people say that it's a beacon for the paranormal and for the extraterrestrial, which is very interesting because like the same type of things happen in Area 51 in Roswell, that it's a beacon of this type of energy because of either A, the experiments that are happening over there, or B, because of the radio waves or frequencies that are coming out of that area. So it kind of acts like this homing device for this type of stuff. And it's extremely interesting when you get into YouTube videos or when you get into like firsthand accounts and when you get into declassified documents that you would find on the internet, which again may or may not be true, but the some of the sources do come from declassified like FBI files or what have you. about scientists or researchers saying that, yeah, because of the things that we were working on, we've experienced a lot of this type of like activity or presence, I guess, because of what we're doing. It's super fascinating. So I am entirely certain that this story inspired other pop culture creations, such as the Pig-Man in the Saw movies, but it doesn't take away from the sheer terrifying image of a 7-foot tall large human man with the pig head. So, you know, this thing has been around for since at least the 90s. What is fascinating about this thing is when you talk about like the plausibility of this thing being around. This doesn't classify as other cryptids that we have talked about in the past. Like this doesn't go into I don't know, like Sasquatch, or it doesn't go into the realm of Mothman, the heavy hitters. But around England, around this area, like this is no kidding, like one of the things that they tell you to stay away from. After reading a couple of articles and after reading a couple of pieces of books that have been written about the Pigman and the YouTube videos, it's like you were to go maybe if you're going to Alabama, and for Alabama we were doing the Wolf Woman of Alabama, and it's a story that's used as a deterrent for people to not be in a certain area. And this may have stemmed from the horrible events that happened in the 60s with the murder of those three young girls. When you are presented with like these horrible events, recent horrible events, you do perhaps maybe will come to this other side of the spectrum and say, well, you shouldn't go there, not because of the possibility of there being a killer that's hiding behind a bush, but the fact that there's a 7-foot tall pig man that's out there. And you tell that to kids, and kids are like, yeah, you should probably stay away from that area, right? So in this instance, there isn't such an aspect for us to explore like a creation or what it could be. I think this falls into the realm of a deterrent, a story that's probably been told to keep people away from that type of area, or at least off the beaten path, because the Cannock Chase forest area, with the pictures I've seen, it is just stunning. It's beautiful. It's not a like a Northern California forest where the large redwoods are cutting in between bike paths. These are thin, really, really tall trees. They kind of like are settled and not like a one tree after the other type planting. They're scattered around, but it feels like you are in the beginning of like a horror movie. I can imagine like the fog rolling in and the way the trees are, and you're trying to run away from the Pigman, and because the trees are planted in such a way, like you have to like zigzag in between the forest, and it's an incredible sight to see. I personally have never been to England. I really, really want to go to England to see like the sights and the history of just like the incredible places. I definitely want to go and sit down at like the oldest pub that they have, because that'd just be cool. And me being a fan of of music, I do want to go into Abbey Road and things like that. Excuse me. Um, but when you're talking about going back to talking about the Pigman, I think this is a fantastic story of what may like lurk in that type of environment and that type of forest, you know, especially when you bring in the post World War II experiments that we know were going on from the German side with the apes and chimpanzees that try to make this superhuman soldier type. Why did they splice with pig? I have absolutely no idea. But the terrifying image of a 7-foot tall, large, you know, muscled man with a head of a pig is just extremely terrifying, which probably explains why in pop culture in the movie Saw they use this figure as like the terrifying image that comes and steals them. I would probably rate this thing as like maybe like a 4 out of 5. The amount of like spine tingling bullshit that comes from just imagining you camping inside of this area and just happen to like look and way beyond the like the area that you're camping in, and you see like the little silhouette of a pig's ear, you know, 7 feet tall, and behind a tree, and kind of like tilts his head to the side to like take a gander at you. Man, that's incredibly terrifying, because like the story goes because in the 90s the first one comes from a couple that were out there, and then they just happened to come across this thing and it was running away. And the other one came from in 2006, in 2006, where a group of friends went camping out there, and then like the story goes that a large group of friends were like, no, I have to go to work in the morning, so we're not going to camp again or something. And then like one of that group went deeper inside of the woods and decided to camp, and then was hearing the scratches of the tree, and then ultimately saw the figure and just ran for its life. The one in 2006 kind of makes me like, man, it was 2006. Even in the one in 93, like I really wish there was some type of photo that could be like analyzed or something. I don't know if the photo that I saw in the research is the one that they officially use as like the first sighting. But the way that, you know, for me anyway, for the way that I think that someone would have reacted in 2006, I think they would have popped out their phone and, you know, took a video or something. But I couldn't find anything. But it just makes this story even that much like creepier, because they're like I've seen it and it looks like this, and it's just it's one of the things I love about doing this is just like what could lurk in the forest at night. I don't want to know. I mean, I do want to know, but I don't want to see it, and I don't want to experience it. I kind of just want to be like the observer, and like from afar, a safe distance, be like, oh shit, look. But yeah. So yeah, I give this a 4 out of 5. The story's awesome. The story's cool. And our first international one coming from England. I think I'm gonna go clockwise. So I'll go England, and then I'll go Ireland or Scotland. Yeah, Scotland, Ireland. And then I'll go, you know, hop the water, and I'll start maybe in Portugal, and then I'll go clockwise that way, and I'll hit all of Europe, and then I'll go into Asia, and I'll go down into New Zealand, Australia, and then I'll cut westward, and maybe I'll start going into Africa, and then I'll go North Africa, and then hit all those countries there. I don't know. I don't know. But I think this international editions will be really fun to do. And I'm noticing that a lot more people are listening from different countries, even though they're like, ones or twos, people who are tuning in. This is an opportunity for me to explore and get some more international listeners. But yeah, I truly thank you all for listening. Stay tuned for some shout outs, some social media shout outs. Like I said, thank you all for listening. This has been fun. And yeah, stay tuned for the next episode. Hopefully I'll have my friend Don Marcos on for a little either banter back and forth about cryptids, or maybe just to get some real-time reactions on the next cryptid I decide to do. All right? Thanks, y'all. Later. This has been an episode of 50 States of Terror, brought to you by your host, Anthony Diaz. You can find the show on Facebook and Instagram at 50 States of Terror. On Twitter, you can find the show at 50 States Terror, without the of, because of the character limitations. You can also find the show on TikTok, 50 SOT Podcast. Email at the50sot@gmail.com. That's the 50SOT@gmail.com. And of course, if you want to support the show, please, you may at patreon.com/50 States of Terror. Thank you, and happy hunting. Later.